At 10:11 p.m. on March 2nd, 2023, Sara texted her sister that she was getting into a truck with strangers. 1 hour later, she was seen inside a duplex in Reddick, Florida. By 4 a.m., Sara had vanished. There was no recorded ride, no social media activity. Her phone had been reset and completely wiped of data.
But as West 2's Haley Crumblehome explains, Ebersole's sister is not convinced that they're looking at the right person.
Today should have been a day to kind of just be upset because she's missing a year, and it didn't become that.
The last people known to be with her gave conflicting statements, yet no one has been charged. Sara's daughter, now 7 years old, still does not know where her mother is, and the question remains unanswered. Where is Sara Ebersole? Sara Gail Ebersole, born in 1996, was an American woman living in the state of Florida, a single mother whose life revolved entirely around her young daughter. For Sara, every decision in both work and daily life pointed toward one clear goal: maintaining income, preserving stability, and protecting her child's future. She worked in the nighttime entertainment industry in the area near Gainesville, Florida, a highly flexible line of work that allowed her to manage her schedule and build financial security for long-term plans. Outside of work, Sara lived independently, accustomed to organizing her daily life on her own, and typically traveled by public transportation or commonly used ride services. Within her family, she maintained especially close ties with her sister and other relatives, frequently texting and calling to share everything from small details to important plans. She was known to carefully store documents, legal records, and materials directly related to her daughter, reflecting a responsible and forward-thinking way of life. Those around her described Sara as energetic, open, independent, and showing no signs whatsoever that she intended to leave her life behind or cut off contact with her family. In the period leading up to her disappearance, all of Sara's actions reflected a stable, purposeful life, one in which her role as a mother was always placed above everything else. March 2nd, 2023 began like any other Thursday for Sara Gail Ebersole. After finishing her evening shift at Café Risque, an adult entertainment club located near Interstate 75 on the outskirts of Gainesville in Florida, Sara prepared to head home as usual. Around 7 p.m., she texted her sister Michelle to ask for a ride, something that was not unusual between the two of them. Michelle was busy at the time and could not leave, but this did not appear to worry Sara. In her familiar, relaxed tone, she said she would arrange her own way home, just as she had done many times before, reflecting the independence and self-reliance she consistently showed when it came to getting around.
So here are the details of my sister's missing person. On March the 2nd, 2023, Sara messaged me, called me roughly around 7-ish, asking, sup, what's going on? I told her I was at a high school softball game because I was helping my daughter, Little League team learn how to use a Game Changer app. So I was practicing scoring the high school game, so I couldn't just get up and leave. Sara then later messaged me just kind of asking if I knew somebody could pick her up from work. Typically, she just takes an Uber. So maybe she wasn't able to find an Uber quickly that night. Her roommate was out of town on a Veterans Women Retreat, so she was going to be home alone. She then told me someone from work would give her a ride home, and as far as I understand, she did arrive home. She took the roommate's dogs out. She walked to them. Roughly around 10-11 p.m., I get a text message letting me know that she got in some random guy's truck with some cowboys, and she hoped they took her on a ride.
Around 7:50 p.m., Sara sent another message to her sister, her tone warm and completely natural. "Tell the kids hi from me. Tell them I love them." Taken on its own, it was the kind of message no one would consider unusual, until everything that followed slowly came into focus. At approximately 10 p.m., Sara was seen at a Circle K convenience store in Reddick, Florida, where security cameras captured her walking through the brightly lit aisles, picking up a few snacks and drinks, and then leaving the store. Minutes later, Sara sent the last confirmed message from her phone. "I'm getting into a random truck with some cowboy guys. Hopefully they're just taking me for a ride." Exterior footage shows her stepping into a black pickup truck with two men, Leonard Anderson and James Robinson. From that moment on, Sara was never seen again. Later that night, the black pickup truck stopped at a duplex located along North U.S. Highway 441 in the Reddick, Florida area, where Sara and James Robinson got out of the vehicle. The residence was shared by Shayla James and Tisha McDermott, people Sara had never met before, and a location she had never visited in the past. At approximately 1:24 a.m. on March 3, 2023, James Robinson sent a text message to Tyrone Mormon stating that Sara was there and asking whether Tyrone wanted to stop by. Wording that seemed ordinary at the time, but would later become a critical detail, raising numerous unanswered questions for investigators.
They say that she left between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. on March 3rd, 2023 with a possible Uber. We do know now it was never an Uber. At first it was said it was a blue vehicle, then a black vehicle, sedan. They say a Kia, a Hyundai, a Honda, multiple vehicles have been mentioned. They say that she left for approximately 10 to 20 minutes and then came back. One of the individuals stated that he heard her outside, but when he went outside, she was no longer there.
After that, Tyrone Mormon arrived at the house in a blue Hyundai Sonata and left at around 4 a.m., with Sara sitting in the front passenger seat. This was the last confirmed moment Sara was seen with another person before all traces of her whereabouts disappeared. After that point, Sara's phone continued to emit signals for a short period of time, indicating that the device was not immediately disconnected. However, the data showed that the phone had been reset to its factory state. This reset effectively erased nearly all of Sara's accounts, personal information, and online activity, meaning that the communication channels tied to her daily life abruptly came to an end without any clear explanation. Sara did not know anyone in that house prior to that night. According to her sister Michelle, Sara had a spontaneous and curious personality, often willing to talk and connect with new people. But the three individuals present in the house that night were not friends and were not part of her familiar social circle. James Robinson lived in one half of the duplex on North U.S. Highway 441 in the Reddick, Florida area, a location later identified as being associated with illicit, harmful substance use, and according to statements, he was in an unstable condition on the night Sara arrived. The other half of the duplex was occupied by Shayla James and Tisha McDermott. When Michelle attempted to piece together her sister's final hours, these individuals stated that the four of them had stayed together until around 3 a.m., and that Sara left using what they believed to be a ride service. However, verification later showed that no ride had been ordered under Sara's name at that time. Instead, messages exchanged between James Robinson and Tyrone Mormon confirmed that Tyrone arrived at the house at around 2 a.m., and subsequent data indicated that Sara left the location with Tyrone at approximately 4 a.m. Notably, earlier that night, Robinson had texted Tyrone stating that Sara was there and asking whether he wanted to come by, a detail suggesting that Tyrone's arrival was not coincidental and had been discussed before he reached the house. Later, according to Michelle, James Robinson admitted a serious detail regarding the moment Sara left the house. He stated that Sara did not walk out to the vehicle on her own, but that he and Tyrone Mormon had to support her and help her outside. If this statement is accurate, it raises a critical question about Sara's condition at that time, as it does not align with the image of someone who was alert and voluntarily leaving. In contrast to this admission, Tyrone later told investigators that he had never actually met Sara and claimed that he had already left the area when she disappeared. However, phone data and location records indicated otherwise. On December 20th, 2023, nearly 1 year after Sara lost contact, investigators discovered security footage from a 24-hour convenience store in northwestern Marion County, Florida, showing Tyrone and Sara together at around 4 a.m. on March 3rd, 2023. That same day, Tyrone was taken into custody for providing false information to law enforcement, later released on bond, and has since refused to continue cooperating with investigators. James Robinson, the person who first brought Sara to the house on North Utalkes, Highway 441, is no longer able to provide any additional information, as he passed away in May 2024 due to long-term issues related to harmful substance use. His death permanently closed off a critical link in the chain of events from that night. From that point forward, only Shayla James, Tisha McDermott, and Tyrone Mormon remain identified as having been present during the final hours in which Sara was known to appear. They are the last individuals confirmed to have seen Sara before she left no further trace. Yet to this day, none of them has provided a complete, consistent, and clear account of what truly happened. In the weeks that followed, Sara's phone remained a critical piece of the puzzle that had yet to be fully explained, and while the official investigation moved slowly, her sister Michelle took it upon herself to trace Sara's digital life. Michelle accessed Sara's iCloud, Snapchat, Gmail, and other online platforms, then forwarded all collected information to the detective assigned to the case. Through this process, a significant detail gradually emerged. The data showed that Sara's phone was still active until approximately 2:40 a.m. on March 3, 2023, and at that time, the device was playing a video on YouTube. Just minutes later, at around 2:57 a.m., there was a login to her Gmail account. Immediately after this timestamp, the phone was reset to its factory state and all personal data was erased. This sequence created a crucial gap in the case, because if Sara herself was using the phone shortly before 3 a.m., and the statements claiming she left the house later are accurate, there is still no clear explanation for what occurred during the period between the moment she was using her phone normally and the point at which she left the location in a condition that no longer appeared fully voluntary. By March 6, 2023, Sara's device stopped transmitting signals entirely, and from that point forward, no new data was recorded. It was not until December of that same year, when investigators finally gained access to Tyrone Mormon's phone, that additional contradictions in his earlier statements were uncovered. The data showed that Tyrone had not lost or discarded his phone as he had claimed, and according to a witness, he had kept the device with him throughout that entire period. More importantly, location information on the phone confirmed that Tyrone and Sara appeared together at a convenience store in the early morning hours of March 3, 2023, aligning with the security camera footage discovered nearly 1 year later. However, after that timestamp, there was no data indicating where they went next. The sequence of events became even more difficult to understand, as not only did Sara's phone vanish from all signals, but many other digital traces connected to her final hours could also not be clearly determined.
My sister's roommate paid a third-party service to ping my sister's last location of her iPhone. That last location was at Lake Livingston LLC, which is a Orange Grove Agricultural Farm, a 1,200-acre farm in the middle of Polk County, Florida, near Lake Windham, something like that. I did drive up there myself. I was able to gain access to the property as far up as the gate as I could get, without hopping a fence to trespass property. Law enforcement in Marion County told me that someone had gone out to the property and they did not locate her near the storage units where the ping was.
Michelle later checked Sarah's apartment on her own, something that, based on what she was told, the Marion County Sheriff's Office had never officially done. There, Michelle discovered that several important items were missing, and when pieced together, these details formed a troubling picture. Gone were the legal documents Sarah had prepared for matters related to a child custody process, as well as a stuffed bear embroidered with her daughter's name and a folder containing notes and paperwork connected to Sarah's former partner, Joseph Matten. These items did not hold significant monetary value, but they were directly tied to Sarah's daughter and to the legal plans she was actively pursuing in order to secure custody of her child.
It was mentioned that she left her wallet on top of a vehicle at some point. I do know that my sister had over $1,000 cash on her. She had made the statement to me that when she went and worked her work shift, she was going to show up to the child's father home with all of her money to barter to see her child. So I intended that's what she went to do.
According to Michelle, on the night Sarah lost contact, she was carrying approximately $2,000 in cash, monies Sarah had set aside for the purpose of arranging visits and maintaining contact with her daughter. However, to this day, there is no information confirming that the money was ever used or given to anyone. No transactions were recorded. No witnesses have confirmed any exchange, and the cash was not found among Sarah's remaining belongings. The disappearance of this sum without leaving any trace has become one of the most difficult details to explain in the case.
Her roommate reached out to me the next day and said, "Hey, have you heard from Sarah? I can't reach her." And at that point, I was concerned because she would respond.
By this point, Sarah's silence was no longer considered normal. She did not return to her apartment, did not respond to messages, did not call her daughter, and did not appear at any of the familiar places tied to her daily routine. For her family, this was no longer a brief lapse in communication, but a clear sign of a troubling missing person case. The first person to notice something was wrong was Sarah's roommate, when she failed to come home as usual. On March 3, 2023, they attempted to report her disappearance, but were told to wait longer because Sarah was an adult. While no official intervention took place, Michelle and the roommate began searching on their own, tracing locations Sarah might have gone. Michelle organized volunteer groups, brought in search dogs to the area around the house on North U.S. Highway 441 in Reddick, and actively gathered information, verified connections, and repeatedly pushed for an expanded scope of review. Throughout this process, the more data that surfaced, the clearer the contradictions and gaps in the statements became.
Members of the Field Force Unit are parking along Highway 441 in Reddick. As investigators tape up the property 27-year-old Sara Ebersole was last seen in back in March. Officials with the Marion County Sheriff's Office say they received a tip to investigate near this location. The tip came from volunteers with the group Marion County Search and Rescue. Team Director Frank Marino says 3 of their search dogs reacted to something nearby.
Once we had some sort of indication, we secured the location where nobody was allowed on until the Sheriff's Department came and took over the location.
The group was approached by Ebersole's sister, Michelle.
I could see where they kind of were adjacent on the property, but I physically was not able to enter. And that's because of a chain of custody of command. If they had to have found something, they didn't want me physically on the property as if I had led them to a particular spot or anything like that.
9 months later, Ebersole's family are still waiting for answers.
Families shouldn't have to fight this hard for their family members. There should have been a lot more transparency and a lot more communication with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. With as much information as I provided them with for the last 9 months, I basically get No comment back.
It's a difficult situation, which is why Marino is trying to help.
I mean, you can have 1,000 people out there, and as a family member, you still feel it's not enough because your emotions take over.
MCSO officials confirm nothing suspicious was found on the property, but they will expand their search if needed.
Joseph Matten was a former romantic partner of Sara and the father of her daughter, and according to information provided by the family, their relationship had been marked by ongoing tension for a long period of time. Before Sara disappeared, she had filed for a protective order against Joseph, outlining concerns related to unwanted contact and stalking behavior. In an effort to limit communication, Sara had changed her phone number multiple times and worked to tightly control her personal life, indicating that she was actively trying to create clear boundaries and protect stability for both herself and her daughter.
On January 23rd, my sister messaged me she got a new phone. She got a new phone because JM was stalking her through her device again, through her cell phone, through use of her Google account. He signs on as one of her devices. He's able to see her text messages, locations, emails, photos, all of the above. Anything you do on a cell phone, he has complete access to. So Sara had gotten a new cell phone. She messaged me, hey, this is my new number. I asked her why. She said because JM was basically harassing her again, stalking her through the device. The last time she had seen her daughter, they got into an altercation. He got angry. He had thrown something and hit my niece in the face. My sister got mad. He became violent. He told my sister not to come back, yada, yada. So my sister had not seen her daughter in a few weeks since that point. So she had gotten the new phone, kind of blocked him. He didn't have her new information. At the time of her disappearance, even though she got a new phone, it was actively using that new phone on January 29th, 2023. In March, he wouldn't have had probably access to her location or anything. So he wouldn't have known physically where she was. So if I give out these people's names or any details close to the addresses, he will then be able to look them up. I believe wholeheartedly that he is trying to plant evidence on those people. What I believe happened was, I think the people at the home knew she had $1,000 plus on her. I think that they stole her cash. I think that she left in that vehicle and got dropped off at her home when she realized her cash wasn't there, and she had possibly contacted JM and told him she had the cash and wanted to see her child. I think he probably agreed, or he picked her up himself. I think she went back to the house and started yelling and screaming, and that's why they said they heard her. My sister would become irate if she thinks somebody took her money. She would be clapping her hands, acting all kinds of ghetto. And I think that's why they're not giving up all the information. I think she did leave their house, and I think she showed up at his, JM's. I think that they stole her money.
At the time Sara went missing, custody of her daughter remained with Joseph Matten, while Sara was actively preparing legal steps to regain that custody. After Sara lost contact, developments involving Joseph began to raise notable concerns. According to recorded information, Joseph had been following several social media pages dedicated to missing persons related to Sara's case, indicating that he was aware she was no longer appearing as usual. On March 29, 2023, an acquaintance reported that Joseph had told them Sara was no longer alive. However, on that same day, Joseph was taken into custody for an unrelated incident involving harm to an elderly person. A few weeks later, he was terminated from his management position at the KA Suites Hotel. On April 24, 2023, Joseph was documented as unlawfully entering the hotel's office area and changing the locks on 2 rooms, numbers 119 and 121. Sara's family repeatedly requested that authorities search these 2 rooms, but those requests were denied. To this day, there is no official information confirming what did or did not occur at these locations during the period of Sara's disappearance.
The roommate then becomes concerned. So when she reaches out to me, I immediately start calling Sara. I'm not getting hold of Sara. The phone is going to voicemail. This is off for my sister. I explained to her that when I spoke to Sara, she said she was going to on her next work shift, which was on March 2nd, she was going to take all that money from work and she was going to then show up to Ocala Suites, to the hotel where her child's father was employed and lived. We're just going to call him JM, since my videos are getting flagged for mentioning his name, but you should know his name by now. So she says that she's going to show up to JM's hotel. I try to disregard that, but I was like, Sarah, it's not a good idea. You don't need to do that. You know, he only wants money from you. That's all he ever cares about is money. It's not about the care of my niece or her child. Sarah was not going to be swayed to do anything other than that. So I don't know what happened the night of my sister's disappearance. They say she left between 3 and 5 a.m. They say she left in a car, she came back, she left again, and that's the last time they saw her. One of the gentlemen said they had called her after that to check in the next day, and her phone was going to voicemail.
Afterward, Joseph Matten left the state of Florida and relocated to Kentucky, taking Sarah's daughter with him. Another detail later discovered by the family drew significant attention. Joseph changed the child's name. Sarah had named her daughter Dia, but after the move, Joseph changed her name to Cora. This change raised questions within the family, because in records of a serious case that occurred in Florida in 2006, there was a young girl named Coral Rose, commonly known as Cora Fullwood. According to investigative documents from that time, Joseph Matten had been asked to cooperate with law enforcement in connection with that case, though he was never charged. During the process, he declined to provide a DNA sample and expressed distrust toward investigators. The decision to rename Sarah's daughter with a name associated with a past case in which Joseph had been involved at an investigative level became a highly debated and unsettling detail. Faced with increasingly overlapping details, Michelle could not ignore the name change of Sarah's daughter, the disappearance of critical documents, and the prolonged silence surrounding the case. She does not believe Tyrone Mormon is solely responsible for what happened, but she does believe he may know part of the truth. However, when considering the custody issues and the developments that followed Sarah's disappearance, Michelle believes the person who benefited most from her sister's absence was Joseph Matten. Throughout the entire period of Sarah's disappearance, Joseph has never made a public statement, has not participated in search efforts, and has taken no action to draw attention to the case. When Michelle attempted to speak out on social media to seek information, Joseph filed a lawsuit alleging online harassment, resulting in several family members and supporters of Sarah being placed under legal restrictions that prevented them from publicly discussing the case or mentioning his name in connection with the investigation.
Hey, just letting everyone know, today is July 3rd, 2023. I had to make an additional TikTok account for my sister's missing person just because a certain individual, I guess we won't name him, is going on my TikTok account and I guess community standard violation all of my videos, all of my posts, and TikTok is steadily taking them down, so eventually they may remove my account. So I need to have a backup account, so I'm still able to share updates about my sister. So please go ahead and add yourself to this account. Thank you so much.
Sara Ebersole is now 29 years old, yet in the final images and data ever recorded, she still appears as the 26-year-old woman who walked into a gas station wearing a tank top and a dark jacket, showing no sign that her life was about to take a sudden and irreversible turn. Since that moment, no further confirmed information has surfaced, no verified leads have emerged, no financial transactions have been recorded, and no activity has appeared on any of her social media platforms. Sarah's daughter is now growing up somewhere else, under a different name, and is likely being told a very different story about her mother. Meanwhile, Michelle continues her search, relentlessly calling for attention and pursuing answers to her sister's disappearance, a case that remains unresolved and without an ending. Michelle organized protests, erected billboards, called on national media outlets to cover the case, and continually pushed for an expanded investigation, including search warrants, additional search efforts, and clearer transparency from law enforcement. She has remained persistent in keeping Sara's name visible on online forums, in Facebook groups, and through any journalist willing to listen to the story. By March 2025, marking 2 years since Sara went missing, the sheriff's office once again identified Tyrone Mormon as a person of interest. However, no formal charges had been filed. As of that time, the whereabouts of Sara Gale Ebersole remain unknown.
Also, the missing persons went out. They're still listing the picture of my sister with the truck. The truck's been located over 2 months ago. I don't know why they haven't issued a new one. Other counties that have been notified, like Polk County, when I spoke to them, didn't know my sister was missing. She's not listed in the database anywhere as a missing person other than the flyer that Marion County made themselves, which is ridiculous. I was told by the Marion County Sheriff's Department that they had sent somebody out to that property in Polk County, and farm workers were investigated. They were questioned. They took statements. They didn't locate her or the cell phone near the storage units. Polk County verified to me that they never went out to that property. That is their jurisdiction. They didn't know my sister was missing. They had never heard about her. They had not spoken to Marion County in regards to it, and they had not been out. And then Marion County turned around and said another police department went out there. That would make no sense. That's not their jurisdiction, and I called them out on it, and I didn't get a really response.
Over time, those following the case have continued to raise unanswered questions. Where did the cash Sara was carrying go? Where are her important personal documents now? And what role did Joseph play in the entire sequence of events? At the same time, questions have emerged about the scope and depth of the investigation that was carried out, as well as why certain lines of inquiry appeared not to be fully pursued. Some have suggested that Sara's line of work may have influenced how the case was perceived, reflecting a broader reality in which not all missing person cases receive the same level of attention or resources. However, Sara's family and supporters emphasize that she cannot be defined solely by her occupation, because above all else, Sara was a mother, a member of a family, and the center of a life that was left unfinished. As this story comes to a close, what remains are not only the unanswered gaps, but also a clear lesson that every disappearance deserves to be treated with seriousness, transparency, and fairness, regardless of a person's circumstances or line of work. Sara Gale Ebersole was not just a name in a case file, but a mother, a daughter, and the center of a family still waiting for answers. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story with me on this true crime documentary journey. If you have any thoughts or information you would like to share, please leave a comment as a way to remember Sara. Don't forget to share the video so this story can reach further. Press like if you found the content meaningful, and subscribe to the channel to continue walking with me through the cases ahead. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next story.